Have you ever been unable to start something because you've been afraid that the thing you would start wouldn't be perfect? This is called perfectionism paralysis, and it happens to us a lot. Just recently with me, I had a group project here in university. 5 people in group were supposed to send in this assignment, and I couldn't start. I just couldn't begin. I was held back constantly by this sense that what I wrote in the report, it's having to be perfect. And the reason for this is that I saw the other members and what they had written before, because they started as soon as the gates were open, essentially. And I saw that their writing was so good, and I knew that my writing wouldn't be able to reach anywhere near their level. And so because of this, I had this paralysis. I couldn't start writing. So afraid that my writing would get exposed as not high level enough. But it hit me eventually on the last day of the assignment, because it was due that very same night. It hit me that I hadn't written a single word, and I had to make a choice here. That I either could remain in my current situation, not writing anything, not exposing my writing ability as bad as I thought it was, or I could actually contribute and help the others and take some of the burden off their shoulders. Because hey, we're a group, we're supposed to help each other out. And I realized that, and instead I felt a lot of guilt for not having done anything. So I spent almost the entire day writing on the report, making sure I left my mark on it. And that whole thing about perfectionism, I didn't think much of it because I was so focused on contributing now instead. This also happened before I had started to make content. I believe I got the first thought of this all the way back in May of 2022, but I didn't start until the 30th of October that very same day, that very same year. So that's a long period of time in between. So what was the reason why I hadn't started earlier then? Because when you think of something, ideally you're going to start with it immediately. The reason was perfectionism, that I was afraid that whatever I was going to make wasn't going to be good enough. That it was going to be at such a low level that I would be done as soon as I even started, as soon as I began. But this frustration grew of not doing anything, not producing any content. So eventually I just had to make something, and that happened on the 30th of October 2022, many months later. And I can make so many examples on this. Another one, my habit trackers. I make physical habit trackers and put them on my wall. I used to have them on my wall over there, but I thought it's not the nicest type of decoration. So I kept moving them out of your sight. They're over there now. And for many months, and this has been a recurring thing, I have not made a habit tracker for that month because I've been paralyzed by not knowing which habits to put on it. Because there are so many things, there are hundreds of things we could put on that tracker that we would want to improve. And if you improve something every single day, you're going to get really good at it eventually. So there's a lot at stake, if you will, a lot of potential to play with. And so I've been trying so hard, so many times, to find the optimal combination of habits. But it's impossible because there are more things you want to do than you are capable of doing in a single day, as I'm tracking this on a daily basis per month. So I ended up not creating a habit tracker at all, not tracking any habit, and thereby not doing as many habits as I would have wished. Then even habits such as meditation that I used to be very good at, I fell off on because I wasn't tracking it. And because I hadn't made a tracker. And the reason for that, because I was a perfectionist. I wanted to find a perfect combination of habits. So this has been a reoccurring thing. Just an inability to get started because you're so afraid that this thing you're gonna do or produce, it won't be good enough. And guess what? It's not gonna be good enough. Or at least it's not gonna reach the level that you want. But it is good enough as a start, because it's the only thing you can ever produce before you even know anything about the area. So in terms of content creation, I cannot be good in front of the camera. I cannot be a natural in front of you. I cannot have a good flow of speech before I've even started. So when I sat down there to record the very first video, it wasn't gonna be good. And guess what? It wasn't good either. But just by beginning, I started the journey towards improving it. And I may still not be that good, but at least I have improved. I've moved closer to perfection. And remember, perfection is the thing that was the reason we wanted to hold off on this thing, the reason we were paralyzed. But you're never going to reach perfection on the first try. You have to try it many times. You have to practice a lot of times before you can even get close to something like perfection. And by the way, perfection is never gonna be possible, really. There's always gonna be something you can improve. And same with writing. You have to first write something to then be able to look at it and see, okay, I can actually improve this part. And when I read this thing in its entirety, I realized I should rephrase this specific part. So starting is a requirement. It's a prerequisite for you to be able to improve your work and move towards perfectionism. The first thing you do is never going to be good. You're never going to be able to create the perfect habit tracker. So many times it's better to do something rather than doing nothing when you try and find the perfect thing. Those months when I hadn't made a habit tracker because I couldn't find the perfect one, it would have been better with literally any habit tracker, given that the habits are somewhat good. Literally any habit tracker would have been better than not having one at all. And so doing something many times beats trying to do the best thing, because that latter one paralyzes you to the point where you won't do anything. And so if you have been holding off on anything because you've been so afraid what the reception from others is going to be, or what you yourself is going to think, don't. Just start. Just get that start and move quickly on from there and continue to improve that thing. But you can't improve, and you can't improve something that doesn't even exist. You need to create it first. You need to begin first. Because with that beginning point, you can then create this point where you have reached such a high level that others are going to look at it or look at you and say, that's perfect, or you're perfect, or whatever it might be. But it begins here. You cannot reach the last step of the staircase before you have taken the first one. You have to take the first step. You have to make the first piece of content. You have to make whatever habit tracker. You have to start writing on your report. You have to begin. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be as good as it gets in the beginning. You're looking for the perfect conditions to start. Starting is the perfect conditions. I will see you again soon.